We're very happy, very excited to have you here with us. And we want to use this as an opportunity for you to meet each other. That's why we constructed this Google Hangout, as well as to meet prior fellows who were in classes preceding yours. Jermaine Davis is here, and we'll talk more about what Jermaine and Cherie Butts, who's supposed to be joining us, will talk to you about related to their experience as Keystone Fellows. So I'm not going to take, I think someone is trying to pick his memory. I saw it there. But anyway, so if there's technical problems, you know, if you can't hear us or there's a problem, just wave or enter the chat mode and type your question to us because, you know, sometimes it does go in and out. But before we get started with, you know, actually getting into the substance of, you know, why we brought you here today, Lindsay, let's start a round of introductions, and we'll start with, yes, so all of you are now here and live. Lindsay, can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we'll start with introductions. I'm going to let the Keystone staff introduce themselves. That way you get a chance to hear their voices, see their faces, and connect everything. Okay, so we'll get started with the Chief Scientific Officer, David Woodley.
Yeah, so I'm David Woodley, and I'm the Chief Scientific Officer at Keystone Symposia. Everybody calls me Woody, so please call me Woody, don't call me David. And I'm really looking forward to working with you all over the next year.
And Nick?
Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Dua. I am the Director of Digital Media. What I do is essentially extend Keystone Symposia to the digital realm. So what we're probably going to be doing, and specifically for the diversity program, we're going to be essentially doing a lot of community engagement. So a lot more, you'll hear from me a lot more throughout the rest of the year. So welcome again. Thank you.
Thank you. And Heather has been very instrumental. You have heard from Heather throughout the whole review process. So Heather, you want to say hi?
Congratulations to all. You had some stiff competition. We had terrific applications this round, and it was a pleasure to get to read through everyone's. And I'm Senior Grant Coordinator and Program Analyst, and also part of Irelene's team. So I look forward to getting to correspond with you all here and again. So welcome.
Great, thank you. Allison, do you want to go?
Hello, I'm Allison Ogden. I'm the Associate Director of our Program Development and Implementation Department. So I work really closely with Woody and our SAB to develop our conference portfolios.
Thank you, Allison. And Kiki?
Hi all, I'm the Scientific Program Analyst. My name is Kiki Spur. I work particularly with Woody and with Allison, well, really everyone here, and just provide a lot of data and background. So welcome, we are really excited to have you.
Yeah. So what I'll do is just very, very briefly go over the program outline that you will experience this year. And so the first thing I'll do is talk about, and I'm going to be very, very broad in how I talk about these meetings, because that's the reason why Woody's here, actually, to give more depth to the SAB and your role with the SAB as you start to select your mentors. So, but anyway, so you will be joining us in January for the SAB meeting. That'll be your first meeting here at Keystone. And then you will have a second meeting in June, which will have even more intensive interactive opportunities to network with each other, to talk about mentoring, to talk about your role as young scientists and what you're doing in your labs and what you're doing to further your careers. And we'll bring in people who can sort of talk to you and structure a conversation around how to go about professional development in ways that would be most useful to you, especially using your Keystone experience. So we'll get started now. We're going to talk about the study group process, which you are about to engage in. So you're about to embark on this. And so Allison and especially Woody will be your guides, but those two people, not so much me, will be sort of steering the ship for the study group process. So I'm going to step back and let Woody and Allison take over.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is kind of describe to you how we do our programming for Keystone Symposia. And the reason for doing this is that you're going to be an integral part of this entire process for one complete cycle. We're actually going to be programming meetings for 2018. We'll probably be generating about 60, maybe 61 or 62 meetings for 2018. It's a long, convoluted, complicated process, but you're going to have the opportunity to be part of this. And I think the Fellows program as a whole is just a fabulous program because it's going to enable you to participate in this programming process. You're going to be interacting with a lot of fabulous top scientists, and I think that if you've been through the whole year, you'll have a much deeper understanding of how scientific programming works. You'll have a lot of new connections and potentially new collaborations to build your scientific careers up. So it's really a great program, and like Heather said, this is a competitive program, so congratulations to all of you for being selected for the program. I think one of the things I do want to emphasize is that what we provide is the framework, we provide this process, but for you to get the most out of it, you really have to embed yourself in it. We can't help you if you don't reach out to people when you're embedded in the Scientific Advisory Board. It's really up to you to take advantage of this program. You'll have lots of opportunities, but you're going to have to reach out and make those opportunities work for you. So let me go into this whole programming process. It's a little complicated, and it's already started. So we program 2 to 3 years in advance. So like I said, this cycle that we're just starting now is for 2018. So when we think about those meetings, we've got to be thinking well in advance of where the science is today. So the questions are, what's going to be hot in 2018? What are the important topics? Which topics are declining and maybe we don't want to do in 2018? So that's really the challenge. And our process involves about 100 scientists that compose our Scientific Advisory Board, and that's what you're going to be embedded in. And these 100 scientists are from all over the world. They're leaders in their field. They're really top people. And they cover all of molecular and cellular biology because Keystone Symposia meetings cover a wide range of topics in the molecular and cellular biology field. So the overview of the process is that we have 2 types of things that go on. One type of event is an online process, which we call study groups. And then we have the second process, which are the face-to-face meetings of the Scientific Advisory Board. And you will be involved in both of those phases in our programming. So let me start right at the very beginning. The first phase is something that we call study groups, which is an online process. I think the simplest way to describe it is a series of chat rooms, but they're not live chat rooms, they're just places that you can go and make comments about meetings. And what we do is we invite all of our SAB members, we invite all of our fellows, and in fact, study groups are now open, but you haven't received your invitations yet. We were waiting for this call to happen, but probably by the end of today, you'll receive your invitations to participate in these online study groups. And in addition, we invite about 800 other scientists, again, from all over the world, who are additional experts in the various fields that we cover. So we may have nearly 1,000 people contributing to this online process when all's said and done. So what happens is each of these individuals, you, the SAB, the other study group members, receive an email that gives a link to the study group website and a password. And the password gives you entry. That password allows us to track you so that we can see who's participating, who's not participating. That's important for how we do study groups in future years. But I do want to emphasize that when you participate in study groups, any comments you make are anonymous. They're not known to anybody else unless you identify yourself. So if you want to make a comment on a meeting, if you want to say that a meeting is rubbish and you don't want to see it in the portfolio, you can say that safely and no one's going to know who you are, who's saying that. But you can self-identify. Sometimes people will do that. They'll put their name to their comments, but that's up to you. But anyway, so there's a password to get in. When you get in, the study groups are broken down into broad categories. And what you would do is click into the category that you were interested in, and maybe infectious disease immunology or something like that. And then within that category, there will be a series of meetings seeded into the study groups. You can click on a meeting and add to the discussion as to whether you think this topic is worthy, not worthy, so on and so forth. And you also have the opportunity to create brand new meetings. You can you can just, there's a way for you to suggest a new title and a whole new topic. And what that does is create a brand new chat room, if you like, and a new link on that list, and then other people can contribute to that chat. I did mention it's not live, so you might go in, you might see a meeting that you're interested in, you might make a comment about it, and then you will perhaps go away, and maybe a few days later or a week later you go back in and you look and you see someone's responded to your comment, and then you can add a further comment. And remember, there'll be 1,000 scientists sort of engaged in this process. I warn you, it starts a little slow. First few weeks we don't get so many comments, and then it builds up exponentially. And the process is open, actually opened a few days ago, and it will stay open probably until the middle of December. So we've got about 2 months to build up all this commentary. The other thing that happens on study groups that's really important is that you also get an opportunity to rate your enthusiasm about meetings on a scale. And so you can go in and tell us that you're extremely enthusiastic about this meeting, but not enthusiastic about this other meeting. And that's important, as you'll see, going forward. So the idea is, over the next 2 months, we generate a lot of chat on a lot of meetings. And I forgot one thing to tell you, that the meetings that are already seeded in there are meetings that either we've seeded in because we feel that's probably a topic that will be relevant in 2018, or a lot of them are meetings that people have suggested to us. They've actually contacted me or Alison and said, we'd love to do a meeting on topic X in 2018. And what they do is give us sort of a brief amount of information about the idea, and then we seed that in. Okay. So at the end of December, we have probably 150 meetings altogether that have quite a lot of chat about them and have been ranked in terms of enthusiasm. So what happens after study groups closes is that Alison, myself, and other staff members get together and we collate all of that information from study groups. We get rid of any duplicate meetings, because sometimes people will create duplicate. We'll get rid of any rude chat. Anyone who's making any nasty comments, we might delete that. We probably collate the information to make it sort of more condensed. And at the end of this, we create a dossier. And that dossier looks something like this. It's actually a hard copy, but also in a PDF format. That basically lists all of the meetings with all of the chat, and in addition, they're broken down into their category areas, and the order of the meetings in the book is based on that enthusiasm that we got online. So the whole point of study groups is to produce that book. So then we go to the face-to-face meeting in January. This is the first face-to-face meeting of the cycle. The second one will be in June. So what happens at that face-to-face meeting, which is the first meeting that you will attend in person, is that the Scientific Advisory Board will essentially tell us what meetings they think we should do in 2008. They start with this book. Now, they don't have to use the book, per se. But what we find is there's so much fantastic information in there that they actually do use it, and they do tend to use the rankings that they got from study groups. And essentially the goal is for the SAB to develop, basically tell us a list of meetings we should do. They tell us who the organisers should be, and also they give us additional information about things that should be included in the meeting or not included in the meeting, topics that have to be emphasised or de-emphasised. So we get a lot of information. So So how does this actually happen? You can imagine with 100 plus scientists in the room, this is obviously potentially chaotic. So let me go through the actual process of how it works. So the first thing is people arrive for the SAB meeting on the Friday before. The SAB meeting itself is on Saturday. And that evening there are cocktails and there is food. So it's not a formal sit-down dinner, but there is food. We'll be part of that, and most of the SAB members will arrive in time for that meal. The next day, there's breakfast in the morning, and we'll give you the specific agenda, but there'll be breakfast in the morning. And then we get the whole SAB together in one room for a briefing. And the idea there is just to make sure everybody's on the same page, to make sure everybody understands what the task of the day is. And that's important because we have a lot of new people on our SAB every year. There's a certain cycling that goes on. So there'll be a fraction of those SAB members that will be brand new. So it really helps to go through exactly what the process is like. And then we break the SAB up into 4 groups. And the groups themselves are themselves subdivided into a series of committees. I'll give you one example. We have one group called diseases, and there are 3 subcommittees in that group. One is cancer, one is cardiovascular disease, and one is metabolic disease. So we've got subcommittees within the groups, and we've got 4 groups. The 4 groups are diseases, immunology and infectious disease, molecular biology, cellular biology, and then the last one is development. So we will slot you into a committee, and that will place you within one of these groups. So after this briefing, the 4 groups separate into their respective rooms, and they take the book, and then committee by committee, they start discussing the meetings that are there. Maybe they even create new meetings, but they'll start discussing meetings. And each committee, so that's within the grouping, will provide us with a list of meetings in ranked order. So I'll give you an example. Let's say in the diseases group, the cancer committee starts off the proceedings. The cancer committee will discuss a series of topics and come up with organizers and other aspects of those meetings. And then they'll rank them. And they might discuss 9 meetings and rank them 1 to 9 in order of importance. And bear in mind, we might decide that we're only doing 5 cancer meetings, or 4 cancer meetings in a given year. So just like at the NIH, we'll kind of create a cutoff where we'll take the top 4 or the top 5, and then the rest, obviously, we won't do. Although we have a little bit of flexibility, especially around that grey area of where the cutoff is. So that's what the staff will do afterwards. But all the committee will do is give us this ranking of the top meeting down to the body meeting. And they'll triage other meetings that they don't want to discuss. So they don't discuss every single meeting in the cancer group. They might, maybe there's 20 meetings in that group, but they only discuss 9 and they rank them, just as an example. So that would happen, say, in the cancer group, and then it would move on to maybe cardiovascular diseases, and they would do the same thing, and then the next group. So that's what the discussion is all morning. And it's pretty intense, and it's a lot of fun, and it's really creative. After that, we take a long lunch break, or at least you take a long lunch break, because the staff and I take all that information from all 4 groups, and we collate it, put it together, and create a kind of combined summary of the output of the SAB. And then we do something that we call identifying red flags. And for us, that's finding things in that output that are problematic for us. One example of a red flag might be 2 meetings that are really similar. For example, the cancer people may come up with a cancer immunotherapy meeting, and the immunologist might come up with a tumor immunology meeting. Well, ostensibly, those 2 meetings are either the same or very closely related, and we wouldn't want to do both. So that's a red flag for us. And there are other things that can come up as red flags. And we create a list of all of those. And then after lunch, you come back, and now the SAB meets as a whole group, and in the afternoon, we discuss those red flags, and we look at the overall output of the morning's SAP activities. So, in that example of a red flag that I gave you, we would discuss with the group as a whole, well, which meeting should we do, or should we combine them, or what's the deal? But there are other red flags. Another red flag might be that there may be meetings that could be jointed. That's where we hold two meetings over the same dates at the same venue. They're separate meetings, but there's some overlap where there's some really exciting science happening. And maybe there could be a joint session or two joint sessions between these two meetings. Identifying those overlapping meetings is really a lot of fun, and that's something that we work on quite hard in the afternoon. And of course the key there is we don't want two meetings that are too similar, otherwise when people come to these meetings, they'll feel like they want to be on both sides at the same time, and that's not good. You really want two topics that are quite different but have an exciting. So that's discussed in the afternoon. Another thing we discuss is, should any of the meetings be 3 rather than 4 days? Most of our meetings are 4 days long, but should any of them be 3 days long? And then another issue we discuss is industry perspectives. We want to make sure that industry perspectives are fully incorporated into the design of the meeting. So we might have red flags at meetings that look to us like they should have those perspectives, but the way they're designed, they don't seem to have. So we develop that. Sometimes we don't have organisers listed for some reason, and we'll discuss the different organisers that group. And then the final thing that we discuss there is any global aspects. We do quite a lot of meetings overseas. Some are being placed in continents like Africa or South America, and that requires we have certain topics that are used. Hi, Sherry. That means that we have to have certain topics that need to be directed to those continents, and that's something that we also discuss in that afternoon session. So it's really a busy afternoon session. In order to make it flow really smoothly and to really get the creative juices going, one of the things I introduced into that afternoon session is a beer break. Apparently it works much better than coffee. So at the end of the day, then we all break and there's a dinner, and then on Sunday. And that's just the beginning of the work for the staff and I, because what we do then is, from those rankings, we identify the 60 plus meetings that we think we're going to hold in 2018, based on the SAB recommendations. And then Alison and I and other staff members will reach out to those potential organisers and invite them to submit a proposal, a detailed proposal, where they perhaps modify the title. They provide us with all of they provide us with the co-organisers, the team that they'll work with, all of the speakers, and every plenary session, and basically all mapped out. It actually takes Alison and I probably 2 to 3 months to get all those invitations out, but we expect to get all the proposals in before that June SAB meeting. And this next stage that I'm going to describe is the peer review stage. So we start off with another online process that happens prior to the June meeting. It's usually only a couple of weeks long, but we post all of the proposals online, and we invite just the SAB members and the fellows to go online, look at the proposals, and sort of think about, any problems that they might see with those proposals, and also give us some enthusiasm rankings for those proposals. And then, so that just happens for about 2 weeks. Then everybody turns up in June for the SAB meeting. And the purpose of that SAB meeting is purely peer review. And what we do is we format the meeting very much the same as in January. You arrive on the Friday night with cocktails and some dinner. On the Saturday morning, you have a briefing early, first thing after breakfast. We break up into those groupings with their subcommittees. There's a discussion on each of the proposals, and then we break for lunch, and over lunch the red flags are identified, and then in the afternoon there's a red flag discussion. So that's the overall process. The actual things that we review when we look at those proposals are as follows. First of all, we look at the science. The key is that the science has to be absolutely cutting edge, high quality science. And if the SAB just feels that a meeting is not up to scratch, they have the option of just saying no to that meeting and rejecting it. Fortunately, that doesn't happen a lot. But like any good study section, the SAB always has a lot to say about every topic. So very few topics get through without some kind of commentary. So in addition to the science, what we also look at is the overall balance of the meeting. Is it balanced in terms of men and women speakers? Is there inclusion of underrepresented scientists? Is there inclusion of perhaps some junior scientists in the program? Is there good geographical distribution? For example, the SAB will be very upset if a whole plenary session is just scientists from Harvard. Is there good balance in terms of industry and academic scientists? And of course, that's topic dependent. Some topics have a lot of industry participation, some not, and it's clearly dependent on the topic. So basically, the SAB comes back with all of this information. And then, as I say, over lunch, we do the red flags, and then we review everything again in the afternoon. One thing I should mention about both the January and the June meeting is that we have stenographers in the grouping rooms. So we take notes of everything that's said, including every and and we have a documentation of everything that's said. In addition, we have staff members taking notes. So all of the information you give us in these SAB members is captured in detail and is used by the staff when we do the final program. The other thing I want to mention about this is that you will have a chance in the June meeting to present your project or your data to the whole SAB, because there aren't that many red flags in a June meeting, because most topics are kind of close to completion at that point. So we have time, and we introduce you fellows in more detail, and you have this chance to do a presentation. So we always look forward to that. It's really interesting, and you've got a fantastic active audience for these presentations. So that's going to be a lot of fun. You'll get some good questions. So that's the process. Now, after June, the staff and I will send your comments back to the organizers. The organizers will hopefully respond positively, revise their programs, and then we'll get the revised programs and we'll accept them. Now, there could be some programs where you, the SAB, have asked to see them again because you felt there were a lot of problems and you wanted to look again. So we'll do that all by email if that happens. But the hope is that we have final programs by September or so, or October, because then what happens is it all goes into the logistic arm of the organization, where the speakers are invited to them. Well, first of all, the meeting is placed both in location and dates. And then once that's done, and that's a complicated process when you've got 60 meetings and there are all these factors to take into consideration, but once that's done, then we invite the speakers. And the key point here is we're inviting the speakers a good year to a year and a half out in advance of the meeting. Therefore, we're getting on their calendars early, and we're getting a much higher chance of them saying yes. And the good thing is that most speakers that we invite do end up coming to the meeting, and it's because we got it on their calendars early. And then, of course, the process moves on, and eventually the meeting is held 1.5 to 2 years down the road. So that's the overall process. You will be assigned to subcommittees at some point in the near future. I do want to emphasize, we'll assign you to a committee, and after you see the meeting list, or when you get to the meeting, you may think, wait a minute, I'm not quite in the right committee here, or I really want to hear something in another grouping. I want to emphasize, you do actually have the opportunity to move around. Although you're assigned to a committee and to a group, actually you can move around, and especially for people that cross different disciplines, that's kind of important. So first of all, don't worry if you're in the wrong if we put you in the wrong committee inadvertently, let us know, and we'll try and correct that. Don't worry about it too much, because we'll be able to, you'll be able to move on within these have a chance to see how different committees work, because they all work a little bit differently. So that's kind of a pretty long-winded way of explaining how our process works.
It's comprehensive.
I hope it was comprehensive. I did missed out some details, but I'm sure you have some questions. Do you want to? Is there time for them to ask
not yet.
questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Almost. Because first, I just want Nick to go over, and then we're going to let them introduce themselves.
Yes. Okay.
And then there's a Q&A, definitely. So Nick is going to talk a little bit about what he's calling EKS, Educational Keystone, or VKS, which is Virtual Keystone. And you'll be a part of that, because we really want to have this program be very interactive with the fellows, their mentors, and with staff. So I'll let Nick finish out for me.
Thank you, Irene. So essentially, I mentioned before that one of the tasks that I was given within Keystone is really increasing engagement within the community and beyond. So there are going to be a bunch of initiatives that Irelene and I are working on, including newsletter, which I think you've received, or some of you have received.
Not yet.
All right, not yet. So wait and see that. And then the blog, we're creating a blog so that we increase engagement. But overall, generally speaking, I don't know if any of you have seen Dr. Rick's testimony at the Hill recently.
Okay, never mind.
But one of the things that she made alluded to is there's a sense of younger scientists really should be able to see themselves in science and where you are at this point too. And really, we're developing that and making sure that your story is told, and really, and each and every one of your story resonates within the community and beyond. So I think, in general sense, you'll see that coming from Irene's office, Irene's group here too, so which I'll be a little bit of part of. So just really give you that preview, and I can't wait to actually start working with you guys. Thank you again.
Great, thank you. So we'll start with the new fellows, and then we'll let the senior fellows introduce themselves, and then I want the prior fellows to really talk a bit about their experiences as Keystone Fellows, and then give a little bit of guidance to the new fellows on the study group process, what they can expect, because Woody did an outstanding job explaining it, but you guys kind of lived it as fellows, so that way you give it a little bit of context in that way. So we'll start with, I guess we can go in alpha order. So Leslie, do you want to start?
Yeah.
So in your institution and your field of study.
Okay, my name's Leslie Caromile, and I'm at UConn Health in Connecticut, and I'm a postdoc, and I'm a senior postdoc, and so I do prostate cancer work, and it focuses on prostate enzymes and such as PSMA and tumor metastasis as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael Coronado.
Yeah, hello. My name is Michael. I'm a instructor at Stanford University. I am studying mitochondrial biology in the context of exercise. So I'm trying to answer the question, when you exercise, how does your heart know to make more energy? What are the processes that the heart initiates to make more energy? Things like that. So it's very basic biology, but I try to translate it to understand kind of a more complex physiological question. So.
Okay, thank you. Stacy Finley.
Okay, hi, I'm Stacy Finley. I'm an assistant professor of biomedical engineering at the University of Southern California, and my background is actually in chemical engineering, and what I'm doing here is to apply mathematical modeling to study different biological processes. So we're looking at right now cell signaling processes in cancer, such as tumor angiogenesis, so that's the formation of new blood vessels. We're also looking at cancer metabolism and then immunotherapy signaling pathways. So all of my work is computational, but I'm collaborating with researchers here at USC and at other institutions as well to get the data and to validate the models.
Okay, thank you very much. So Dennis Montoya.
Hi, I'm Dennis Montoya. I'm a project scientist here at UCLA. My background is actually more in cellular immunology of infectious disease. Recently, I have a career development grant and now looking at computational approaches to use sequencing technology to identify immune cell populations across complex diseases.
Thank you. Avery Posey.
Hello, my name is Avery Posey. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Pennsylvania. My field is cancer immunotherapy, and my group develops T-cell therapies for cancer.
Okay, thank you. And Lindsay Trevino, rounding it off.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Trevino. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm Lindsay Trevino, and I'm a senior postdoc at Texas A&M Health Science Center, and my field is epigenetics, and I'm currently working on looking at how early life exposure to endocrine disruptors causes a disease in adulthood, especially metabolic disease.
Okay, thank you. And so, Cherie, since you were the class of 2008, I'll let you lead off, and then Jermaine, 2015. Thank you.
My name is Cherie Butts. I am currently, let's see, I paused because we just changed organizations. I am in the program leadership group at Biogen, and I also grew up as a cellular immunologist. The work that I'm doing now is primarily managing the portfolio across all of research, and the research that I do is focused on understanding the neural immunes. Yes, the first class is the best class. Let's just throw it out there.
I'm really going on. It's hilarious. Okay,
Hello, I'm Jermaine Davis. I'm assistant professor at Meharry Medical College and class of 2015. I am an X-ray crystallographer, and I focus on understanding protein-protein interactions that influence tumor genesis.
Okay, thank you. So, Cherie, Jermaine, do you guys want to take the lead on describing your experiences and what they can anticipate over the next couple weeks in study group, next few weeks in study group?
Sure. So, Jermaine, do you want to start it off, and then I'll chime in second?
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So, so the study group was different, a different experience. It was a bit intimidating once I got into the room, but throughout the course of the planning, it was pretty intense because it focused on identifying people that would be suitable to nominate. And so that's where you really have to know your field and some of the leaders in the field, because once you get in the room, you want to promote those people. And so it took a little while to adjust to figuring out how to use the study group, but after you do that, it's pretty much straightforward. Once you're in the study group, it can go in so many different directions. But what I found is that you have to kind of hold steadfast to who you believe will be the right choice for organizing the symposium, because most other people have been doing this for numbers of years, so they have a lot of experience and they know a lot of people. So they're going to promote who the people in their circles. So you as a newcomer, it can get kind of I guess intimidating to try and keep promoting the people that you want to promote, but I think it's a vital component to actually identifying new and young people to run these, to organize this symposium.
Okay. Cherie.
I would say that's a very good summary. There are a couple of things that I would suggest. The first is don't wait till the last minute. Go in as early and as often as possible, kind of like we make a joke about voting. Make sure what you can
not as often as possible.
What you can do is at the beginning of the study groups, you can sort of give yourself some time, but go in and peek. See what some of the comments are that people have. and then that can help drive maybe the contribution that you give. I totally agree with Jermaine that people come in there with their own sort of their own set of individuals that they would like to push forward. And one of the pieces of advice that I've given to individuals in previous classes is when you go into, so the first comment I was talking about the study group, so make sure you go in there often and check and actually do contribute, because the most important aspect that you bring is a different opinion. And if you don't provide that different opinion, then it will look the way it always has. And that's exactly what the purpose of this program is. The second part is the January meeting. We deal with June later, but let's deal with January because that's the one that's coming up. I agree that it's an intensive experience. You should probably get a lot of sleep on Wednesday and Thursday before you go, because most people, even when we try to warn them, they're still pretty worn out. But you need to understand that it's fast and furious for the 48 hours that you're there. And don't be shy. That doesn't help anybody. The reason why you were selected is because you are the best, and so you should not sort of cower and not flower because you were selected. You should own it. You should contribute. That's the whole point of you being there. And one of the things that I tell people who may be a little bit intimidated by the list is, go through the list. Look at all of the list of the SAB members and identify some individuals with whom you'd like to interact. And maybe think about, you're very familiar with at least some of their research, and just come prepared with some questions. And once look, they put their pants on one leg at a time too. So there's really no need to be intimidated. They're really nice people. They're humans. They're not perfect. They have their idiosyncrasies. Really smart people tend to, but you just accept that. Don't be put off by someone that doesn't entertain you. Don't expect people to entertain you and necessarily go over and above. They are who they are, and they are how they are. And you can't really afford your own insecurities and over-interpreting someone's action because maybe they didn't speak to you long enough or something like that. You have to get over that. But go through the list. Look and see who you'd like to meet, and then meet them. Have a conversation. I think that helps a lot with people sort of calming down from the experience, because if you look across the list, it's like, these are people who got what I call CNS papers, which are cell nature and science papers, and so maybe that would be intimidating. But do whatever it is you need to do to sort of feel better, and you've been in the room where you're the only one. You've been in the room where this is a new environment. I mean, you treat it whatever way you got over it, then it's the exact same thing. But don't wait till the last minute to do your homework with that book that you're going to get, or I guess it's a link now, right? You get a link instead of the big. Okay. So don't wait till the last minute because it can be overwhelming. Look through the study groups that you're assigned to and come up with a few points that you'd like to contribute. As Jermaine alluded to, it's a very intensive experience, and so if you pay too much attention to the intensity, then you never get your point across. So what you might want to do is maybe jot down those things that you'd like to communicate, and so when you're sort of a little frazzled, you can look at your notes and say, okay, yeah, that's right, I wanted to say these things. The other thing that I would also say is, again, you're bringing a different perspective. So they may be proposing individuals, you may not necessarily be aware of all the names they're going to throw out, but feel free to ask, why is it that you think that this person is a good organizer? Is it that that they're organized in general, that they're a good speaker? Ask those questions, but also come with your own thoughts about individuals that could be considered, and also be prepared to back it up with some definitive statements. I think when the first class and the second and maybe the third class were in the room, one of the things that we tried to push was having more of the short talks, because some of the previous Keystone meetings would have a lot of the senior or I shouldn't use senior, I should say the more established scientists would be on the program, and so we were trying to push for more of the early career scientists to have a say in the meetings and give talks, because it is an opportunity for them to shine. So, you know, go in there, and each of you has a range of expertise. I mean, you have people from biology to engineering and everything in between. You have computational biology. And when you go into the room, you know, bring that. You have that aspect, and not everybody in the room is going to have the same expertise as you. And there are going to be a list of names that you know from your particular field that you could offer up as potential as well, because Keystone's actually very good about mixing and matching things to make it a richer experience. And so I think that's something to consider. Just come in there with a couple of your own thoughts. Don't wait till the last minute. Make sure you have some suggestions that you can contribute that would actually make it better.
Thank you. Any advice on selecting a mentor? Both of you. Quick tips. What do you do?
Personally, I would go for, okay, it depends on your needs. If you need someone to help you professionally, then you pick the person who's in the field that you were trying to build yourself in. If you needed more of a career development, you need more advice on how to get from this level to the next level, then you pick somebody that's better at that. I think that Woody and others on the Keystone staff could actually provide some comments. I'm not going to say that there's a list, but they'll know who probably can address your needs, but you need to be aware of what you need. Because picking a mentor who's in your same scientific field and that's not really what your needs are isn't really going to help you. But try to pick somebody who can address maybe the gap or to strengthen the area that you like to learn.
Okay, thank you. Jermaine.
Yeah, so I think use your resources first. So maybe you can reach out to previous Keystone Fellows to find out which mentors work for them. I got lucky, and I knew who I wanted to mentor me even before I started with Keystone, and he just happened to be on the board. And so when I met him there, it was a no-brainer. But you can definitely look through the list of people to see what type of mentorship you need. And even if you want to do potential collaborations, I actually interacted with someone else that could have been a mentor who we're discussing in collaboration. So the more you come prepared, obviously with expectations, then the better the outcome. So look through the list. I'm sure you know a bunch of names on the list, and just find out who you think would be good, and then you can contact us, previous fellows, to see if we had that mentor or how our mentoring relationship panned out.
I think that one of the statements that Jermaine just made is very key. You need to, when you choose that mentor, set expectations. You should say, my expectation is that we would communicate once a month or maybe once every 2 months, so that person can sort of gauge what they can and can't do. They may come back and say, you know what, to be quite honest, my schedule's pretty crazy. Can we do it once a quarter? Or can you send me emails? You also need to roll out the expectation on the communication strategy. Is it going to be primarily by email, or is this person, are you hoping that this person will call you? But as long as they're aware of what you're hoping from them, they can always tell you, yes, I can do that, or no, I can't do it exactly that way, but are you okay with us doing it that way? I think that's going to make the best mentor-mentee relationship, is as long as everyone is clear on who is expected to do what.
Up to questions from the new fellows. Who has a question?
I have a question. Can you guys give us an example of some of the relationships you had with your mentors?
I actually was just about to do that, because I piggybacked off of this Keystone program and got my mentor to agree to mentor me for another year. And so we're in this program with cell biology, and now I'm going to Scripps to give a talk, and he's coming to Meharry to give a talk. So he's been reading my grants, and it's been very instrumental in helping in my career development. So as I said before, I got very lucky. he just happened to be a great person, and I did put, you know, the expectations out. I want to write a grant in my first 3 years, and I want to do this, I want to do that. So I tried to make it as easy for him as possible to say yes and not seem like a big time burden.
Jermaine is right. He got a really great one. I think for me, so I was part of the first class of Keystone, so we didn't have the formal mentor assignments, but I'm not shy. I am shy, but I can't afford to be shy, so I had no problem with asking. Well, actually, I use a term that really relates to what Irelene taught me in life, which is I voluntold them. And so they were nice enough, they agreed. I believed that there was more than one person who could fill my complexity in terms of the needs. And so what I did is, it was sort of a strategy, because I said, okay, for this person I'd like you to address this, and for this person I'd like you to address this. And I think that they felt like it was, as Jermaine mentioned, less of a burden, because they didn't feel like they needed to fulfill all my needs. They knew that they were covering a niche and that someone else was covering something else. But I made it what I wanted it to be.
And do the people that you're approaching know that that they're going to maybe approached by some of the fellows here? Like, is it going to be, you know, who's this random person asking me to help them? I mean, what is the advisory committees that we're going to be interacting with know of us?
Okay.
Maybe I can address that. It is something that's relatively new in the program, where we hook people up with mentors. And we typically do this after the SAB meeting, and I think that's going to stay the same with Irelene, but it could formally change. So it's quite likely that at the SAB meeting itself in January, some of the scientists at the SAB won't know that this is a potential thing that could happen. So one of the things you can do, and this is actually more of a general comment, is use me and Alison and some of the other people that are in this room to help make introductions to you, and we can even perhaps bring up the concept of mentoring at that point. For example, if you know, you've looked through the list of SAB members and you know that you want to talk to Joe Blow, and you don't know actually who that is or if they're there, you can use us to kind of make that introduction for you. And we can also talk at that point about mentoring. But to specifically answer your question, what happens after the SAB meeting is that we reach out to you, or Irene reaches out to you and says, who do you think might be a good mentor for you based on your initial experience at the SAB? And you give us the names. We'll look at it, because we know that some people are better mentors than others. We know there are some people that might not be very good at that, right? They might not answer emails, things like that. So we kind of tend to be aware of those things. We would get back to you and give you a little bit of advice, and then we would make that connection at that point, and we would leave it to you and the mentor to get together. We give a kind of list of instructions to the mentor so that they understand what the expectations are on their part. And one of the things that we tell the mentors is that this is a process that we think will kind of be driven by you. It's going to be up to you to make sure that all of those interactions happen. And the reason we say that is that some mentors, they're just very busy. They're very happy to help, but they kind of need that prompting. So we want to make sure that you push that process, and it's not just all dependent on the mentor's side. So does that answer your question?
And I'll be helping with that all along the way. So you're not abandoned. You're not going to be left sort of, you know, out in the woods fending for yourself. So don't worry about it. I'm here.
And if it's not working, I mean, sometimes it just doesn't work for whatever reason. Nobody's fault or anything. It just doesn't work. We can change the mentor. We can find a way to fix that. So don't worry if it's not working out initially. We'll find a way to make it work for you. Because at the end of the day, we're hoping these will be lifelong mentors.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry. I had a question. Is the mentor selection, does that happen after the first SAB meeting or the second SAB meeting?
First.
The 1st, in January.
So something I would like to comment on about the January meeting, and the same is true for June. When you guys get there, you've now met each other, but don't congregate. This is a fast and furious experience, and so there's going to be an opportunity for all of you to hang out with each other, but you hanging out with each other in the SAB meeting is ineffective. So make sure that you go in there, but you plan to sit in very different places so that you're not sort of falling into the trap of hanging out with each other, and then you miss the entire opportunity to interact with these, at least a few of these 60 some odd people.
That's a good point. Woody and I were talking yesterday about having, maybe 30 minutes with you guys before dinner, just so that we can congregate as a community, since it will be your first Keystone experience. But definitely, I think Cherie is right on. You need to definitely meet with the folks that you are coming conceivably to have as lifelong mentors. And so you want to get to know them, and you want them to know you. And there'll be ample opportunity for us to have Google Hangouts with each other, so you'll get to know each other. But we want you to really get in there and get to know the mentors that, and the SAB members that potentially will be your mentors.
And there's one more thing I might add to that. So we'll meet for half an hour or however long we have, just so that we meet each other in person. And then we'll go into the SAB cocktail party, dinner. And not every SAB member will be there, and some will be arriving late because it is the arrival day.
Okay.
But one of the things, as you can imagine, many of these people will know each other. So they'll all be clustered in little groups, chatting about things that they know about, maybe family affairs, all that kind of stuff. It's really incumbent on you to sort of interject yourself into those conversations. And I know it's difficult. I find it difficult myself, but I think that's important to do. Don't let them just talk about their stuff. And again, Irelene and the other staff and I can help you do that. So if you feel like you're being left out, grab me or Irelene or someone, and we'll bring you into some conversation. So I really want to emphasize that we're there to help you. So please, please, please take advantage of us. And we may not notice if you're standing in a corner on your own. We may not notice.
I'll notice. Trust me. I tend to be a mother hen. Cherie knows. I will know, as Jermaine has learned. Yes.
Okay, you don't have to worry about it. I'll be on top
I'll be
of
watching. So.
Okay, and you guys need to accept. So Irelene is wonderful. She is not shy, to say the least. So just understand that what she's doing, maybe if you're shy, it's interpreted as aggressive, but she's actually being very helpful. She's trying to move your career forward, sometimes whether or not you like it.
I hope not. Oh, gosh. So are there any other questions? Because I want to be respectful of your time, and it is noon, so believe it or not. Any last questions, thoughts? No? Okay. Well, this was wonderful. So we plan more of these Hangouts, and we will start having Hangouts with the mentors once you guys have selected your mentors. Okay, so that you have an interactive experience. So it's not all just email and long-distance phone calls. Okay? So if you have any questions for me, you have my email address, and I look forward to this year. It's going to be fun. It's going to be challenging, but you're up for it. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.